Good afternoon, folks. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor at Madison365, with your daily update for Wednesday, May 26th. I hope you're having a wonderful week so far. The COVID numbers, which is what started this, I was telling somebody the other day that the reason this show started was because of the governor had daily call-ins with the press. And there was just so much information. This is like early COVID, like March 20th of last year. And there was just so much information, I just couldn't type it all. So I decided I would go to the press call, I'd get my one question in, and take as many notes as I could, and then just come on Facebook Live and just dump it all to you. And that became a thing. And now has evolved into this show, which is less and less COVID because there's less and less COVID news, which is good, right? I would much rather come on here and talk to you about all the other stuff going on in the world than this pandemic, but we're not there yet. However, today is a good day. 330 new cases today. That's about 9% of the new results today are positive. 3,600 new results today. The better news, I'll also mention 5 fatalities today, which keeps our 7-day average of fatalities reported at 4, which is very low, which is good. The daily average of new cases is down to 307. That's the lowest I've seen that since last June, for sure, which is great. The other 2 other really good pieces of news. First of all, the active cases. We used to talk about active cases. I haven't talked about it that much because it's not that big a deal anymore. But we passed a milestone. 5,649 active cases right now, which is nice and low. But even better, only 1%, less than 1%, 0.9% of all the cases we've ever had are currently active. Okay, that means we've had a lot more people recover than we've had are currently sick. That number was 22% at one point. It hasn't been below 1% as long as we've been tracking. So that's great. That means that the current active, the virus that's out there spreading around, is spreading around among a very small number of people. That's what we want to see. We got to get the active cases down to 0 eventually, right? That's the goal. The other piece of good news today is that the positive test rate, that is of all the tests, not just the new results, but all the tests in the past 7 days, 2.3% were positive. That's the best that's been in 2 months, more than 2 months. Middle of March was the last time it was that low. So that's great. We'd like to keep that below 3.0, right? We talk about that all the time. If you get that, if that's below 3.0, you've got it under control. It's not over yet. It's not done. It's not out. We can't just say we're done because there are a lot of places in the world where COVID is still much worse than it is here. And as long as it's bad somewhere, it could get bad here at any time, right? That's how viruses work. As long as it's bad in India or in Michigan or in wherever, Canada, the potential for it to find its way back here exists. Now we are getting more and more people vaccinated, so it'd be less of a problem if a new variant showed up here or whatever. But we can't say it's over yet. We can say in Wisconsin we've got it more or less under control for the time being, which is very encouraging. It's good news. Again, it's not over. We can't let our guard down. We got to get people vaccinated. Speaking of that, somewhat more shots given in the past 24 hours than, we only saw about 15,000 yesterday. We saw about 23,000 today. The daily average continues to go down. It's around 21,000 a day now, which is not enough. But we're getting there. 41.3% of us now. That's another 0.2% have finished the vaccine series. 2.4 million Wisconsinites are vaccinated. 2.75 million have gotten at least one shot. That's at 47.2%. And we know that even just one shot does begin the immune response, right? So you're not fully protected from COVID or from dying of it or from getting very sick with one shot. However, you're less likely, you begin almost immediately to be less likely and more resistant to COVID than you were before. So once we get to like 50% of us with even just one shot, we'll start to see these numbers go down even more. So we might get to the point where I just give you a weekly update on COVID and give you the rest of the news the rest of the time. I don't know. We'll see. But that's, things are looking good right now. I don't want to spike the ball outside the end zone, as happens sometimes. But I will say we are getting there. I feel good right now. I feel confident. I'm going to a Forward Madison game tonight. I'm going to be in the press box, so I'm going to have a mask on because I'm going to be basically indoors. But I feel much more comfortable going to that. I feel much more comfortable having 1,500 people there in vaccinated sections and in socially distanced sections than I would have 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Things are looking good, and I'm proud of us because we're doing it. We obviously have very little help from the state on this, but here we are. We're doing it. So that is what I know right now about COVID. We should get variant update tomorrow, which again, we keep track of the variants. The variants in Wisconsin have not had a meaningful impact on the overall numbers. So the variants aren't something to be scared of right now or to be panicked about or anything. They do warrant keeping track of. So we'll have an update tomorrow on the variant situation. Until then, we'll have a short pause here. We'll hear from our sponsor, UW Health. And then I have a big announcement. I've teased this announcement to you. I've said it a few times in the past several weeks that I have something good to announce. Dolores missed the numbers. The numbers are all good. 2.3% positive test rate. 307 cases per day. 330 cases just today. So you missed the good news, Dolores. Everything's good. I have a big announcement though about something we are doing that I think you'll be excited about if you're into local news, which I know you are because you're watching this. So I'll finally be able to announce that to you right on the other side of this break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Here in the Midwest, community is important.
Having a healthcare system that's looking out for us,
that's actively addressing the racial disparities in healthcare is important.
When we can get good quality care, we can do more. We can achieve more.
We can be the kind of community we want to be, and that's really important.
UW Health. Remarkable medicine. Remarkable care.
All right, so here's what we have. We have Microsoft, very big company with lots of money, has decided to fund local journalism across the country. As you may be aware, local journalism is in a tough spot for the most part. Local journalism has been on the decline for years, literally 50 years. Readership is down, revenue is down. And this whole COVID year impacted local news a lot, right? Businesses weren't buying advertising. People weren't buying newspapers. We were able to weather that because we're a nonprofit and community came through for us. But all that said, Microsoft is funding collaborations. They're putting money into communities and saying, here, newspapers radio stations, news websites share this money, do great journalism. And I'm very happy to announce that we are part of what is now called the New News Lab. New stands for Northeast Wisconsin. You might be aware, you might not be, that we have a website called Fox Valley 365. We have Madison 365 as our main operation, right? But we also have Fox Valley 365, which basically is a section of our site that covers Northeast Wisconsin, Green Bay, Appleton, Oshkosh, basically all the way down to Fond du Lac. And we are partnering with the Green Bay Press Gazette, the Green Bay Press Times, the Appleton Post-Crescent, Wisconsin Watch, and Wisconsin Public Radio. And those 6 newsrooms, 5 organizations, 6 newsrooms, are going to do, we're working on 4 different reporting projects, and big reporting projects. These aren't just like your daily, your school board meetings, your whatever, which are important. Those are all important. But these are big, meaty enterprise stories. And the one we are doing is that Brown County has just, in February, just formally made the declaration that racism is a public health crisis. That's a declaration that was first made in Milwaukee. And since then, over 170 jurisdictions across the country have made that official declaration, which means something different in every place. So what we're going to be digging into is, what does that mean in Green Bay? What does that mean in Brown County? And Microsoft's support has allowed me to hire 2 reporters to do that story under my supervision. So I'll be editing and kind of watching that. But Kanala Phillips, if you've been around Madison365 a while, you might remember Kanala. She was an intern of ours. She was a freelancer for us while she finished her undergrad. Now she is a graduate student in journalism at the Craig Newmark School at CUNY. And she will be covering those issues along with Abi Levine, who is a new reporter for us, who's a terrific reporter. He's from the Twin Cities, and he will be covering some of these issues as well. So the first 2 stories of this project published this morning for us. There's a couple other of the outlets are also publishing today and the rest of this week. We're going to be basically publishing these stories on this project will run through June. So we'll be doing a couple of stories every week on the public health crisis of racism in Brown County. We're going to be looking at the Oneida Nation. We're going to be looking at, you might remember last spring, big COVID outbreak in the Latino population in Green Bay. We're going to be just digging into that, right? We're going to look at maternal health. We're going to be looking at housing insecurity, food insecurity, all sorts of stuff. And if you have any ideas for us, if you're from Green Bay and have any ideas, shoot them our way. But the first 2 stories are up today, and they're basically kind of background stories, right? So Abi did a story on those 170, not all of 170 of them, but basically a national perspective on several different jurisdictions and kind of what it means to declare racism as a public health crisis, why it's a public health crisis, and kind of what, it's kind of, you say those words and it's hard to get your head around, kind of. But so he's got that sort of national perspective. And then Kanala did the Milwaukee angle, where she's got basically talked to the people, all women of color, by the way, women of color who are behind that push to make that declaration in Milwaukee County. And they've all moved on to other things now. This is only like 3 years ago, but they've all moved on to other things. And she was able to talk to them, get their perspectives about why they did that, some of the stats about it. The Brown County has convened an ad hoc committee to implement that declaration. They had a meeting last night. Kanal was at that meeting. We're going to have a recap of that meeting probably tomorrow. So this is good stuff. This is going to be really important reporting, and we're very excited to be part of it. Excuse me. And it's, like I said, it's not jump change. Like Microsoft is making a significant investment in local news, and they're pretty hands off about it. Like, I didn't have to run those stories by anybody. I just published them. Like, they trust us to do the journalism because that's what we do. So they wrote us a check. And I should mention the Greater Green Bay Community Foundation and the Community Foundation of the Fox Cities are basically the fiscal agents for this. Right? They're kind of handling the money locally. So Microsoft gave them the money, they divvied it up to us, and they wrote a check and said, "Go do journalism." They're not having us approve anything. They're not telling us what stories to do or what topics to do, or they're not giving us any topics to avoid. So I give them kudos for that, because that's what I mean. We could talk about the crisis in local journalism, and what it takes is money, because we're professionals. This is our profession, and if I want to bring in people to do it, and to do it at the highest level, I have to pay them like professionals, and that's what Microsoft is allowing us to do. Even though our two reporters are finishing their second, the Newmark School is a 3-semester program, and they're both done with their second semester, so they're 1 semester away from getting master's degrees. So they're still technically students, but they're professional reporters, right? So it's very exciting. We're really happy to be able to do this, and I hope you just watch for that. You'll see anything we do that has this will be on FaxValley.org. It'll be on Madison365.org. You'll see it wherever you see our stuff. You'll see these stories. You don't have to go looking for them, but you'll see this. You'll see this logo on those stories, and you'll know. And I'm also going to put these all on one page so you can kind of keep track of those. Okay, now back onto local news in Madison. Gladys Benavides. If you've been around Madison a while, you know Gladys. She's a longtime leader in Madison's Latino community, and she is being honored at the Latino Chamber of Commerce Latino Business Excellence Awards. And she'll be receiving a sort of a legacy award, a lifetime achievement award for her 4 decades of leadership in this community. So many congratulations to Gladys. Also today, I want to mention that Finding the Warmth of Our Sun is a terrific episode today. There's been a lot of talk about critical race theory, right? White people, like conservatives, get really scared of it for some reason and don't want to outlaw it, or because they think what it means is they think critical race theory means that every white person gets just called racist and has to feel bad. That's not what it is, and secondly, even if it was, we kind of deserve it, right? Like we can take it, but that's not what it is. So Matthew has had 2 episodes now, last week and this week, that examine this: what critical race theory really is and what it isn't. So once you understand what it is, then you realize it's not that scary. But secondly, today he had this Kevin Lawrence Henry Jr., who is a professor at the UW-Madison, to come out and talk about practical, like, what does it mean in real life? Like, what is critical race theory in your daily life? Outside of academics, outside of theory, what does it mean day to day? And it's a really good conversation, and I learned a lot, and you will learn a lot if you give that a listen. It's on our YouTube channel, but it's also, if you just want the audio, just listen to it while you're working out or making dinner, wherever you get podcasts, search for Finding the Warmth of Our Sun. And you listen to the last 2 if you want to get really up to speed on this critical race theory debate. I highly recommend it. National news today, shooting in San Jose, California. Last I heard, and I haven't seen a more recent update, 6:30 this morning, a gunman opened fire at a public transit hub, and there were multiple fatalities, including the shooter. Excuse me. I'm going to see if I can get a more recent update, see if we can get a number. At least 8 have been killed in that. And, these things, even though it was 6:30 this morning, almost 10 hours ago now, you never get the details very quickly. So unfortunately, I don't have much more to tell you about that. And one other piece of national news that I didn't even, that came up so recently that I didn't even get a chance to make a slide for it. But Howard University, we mentioned last week, I think, that they were reviving their College of Fine Arts and hired Felicia Rashad, the actor, to be the dean of that college. Now they've given that college a name, and it is named the Chadwick Boseman School of Fine Arts. Chadwick Boseman, as you know, tremendously talented actor, should have won the Oscar posthumously. Passed away last August of colon cancer. He was Black Panther, sort of most popularly known as Black Panther. But in his recent demise, they're going to honor him. He was a Howard guy also. So he does have a connection to the school, and they're going to, name the College of Fine Arts in his honor. So that's what I have for you. I talked a lot about I was talking about the Microsoft thing. That we do this. We're professionals. We need funding to survive. Not to survive. We're not like, it's not like if you don't donate, we will go out of business. But to do what we do takes money, and it's free to you. It's the free press. It's free to report and to hold people accountable and to tell you the stories you need to know. But it's not free to create. It's free to you to consume. And it always will be. That's our pledge to you, that we will keep it free. We don't think it's fair or right, or it doesn't make any sense at all, that we would say democracy requires journalism, but you got to pay for it. Like that's just what that means is if we are critical to democracy, but you got to pay $10 a month or something, like then only people who can afford democracy can have democracy. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I just think news, like what we do, should be free for everyone, not just those who can afford it, right? But there's a but. I mean, somebody's got to pay for it. So if you can afford to pay for it for yourself and for other people, if you can subscribe for $10 a month, why not? Go to Madison365.org/donate. We are a 501c3 nonprofit newsroom. We do events. We do journalism education. We've got an intern coming this summer to do health. So like we're creating the next generation of journalists from marginalized communities. We're amplifying marginalized voices. And if that matters to you, make a donation, make it monthly, make a one-time thing, whatever you want to do. Madison365.org/donate. It's very easy. And we appreciate it. I appreciate you sticking with me for 3.5 minutes. And I apologize for my throat. Today I should have tea with me, but I hope you have a wonderful evening. For Madison Football Club plays Union Omaha tonight, so follow on Twitter. I'll have the highlights on Twitter, the game recap and highlights after the game, and I'll have a recap again tomorrow. Feel free to follow Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you see us. Madison365.org is where all the latest news always is. Until tomorrow, take care.
This is 365 Media.